Welcome back. The Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, has warned that the COVID-19 pandemic may exacerbate suicide risk factors, urging people to speak about the issue in an open and responsible manner and to remain connected even during physical distancing and learning to identify warning signs to prevent suicide.
According to Director of the Pan American Health Organization, Dr. Carissa Etienne, no other group has felt the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic more acutely than the men and women who make up the health workforce. Dr. Etienne disclosed that data compiled by PAHO shows that nearly 570,000 health workers across the region have been infected by COVID-19, with more than 2,500 falling fatally ill, and many others fearful for their own lives. The director says now more than ever, healthcare workers need mental support as they continue to face the pandemic head-on.
Health workers and caregivers have been the cornerstone of this response. Many have risked their own lives to care for their patients. After months of operating in crisis mode, they are at higher risk of depression, anxiety, and burnout. Many have been stigmatized, and some have been subjected to physical harm for reasons related to COVID-19.
According to a PAHO release put out for World Suicide Prevention Day in early September, there have been increased reports of suicide factors such as anxiety and depression amongst healthcare workers. Etienne says though suicide rates in men are usually higher than that of women, accounting for 78% of all suicide deaths, the situation facing healthcare workers may have a greater impact on the female population, given that 75% of healthcare workers in the region are women. Dr. Etienne is calling on governments to take the necessary steps to ensure that healthcare workers can operate in the best possible conditions.
I ask everyone to join the call to action to speak up for health workers' safety. I call on our member states and their partners to ensure safe and decent working conditions for health workers, ensure access to training and protective equipment, and equal pay. I believe that special priority should be placed on the needs of women, who make up nearly 3/4 of the health workforce in our region, and who often bear extra burdens of work and caregiving in their own homes.
The PAHO director went on to provide an update on the current situation in the region.
Today, the Americas accounts for over half of the world's cases and deaths from COVID-19. The pandemic has resulted in tragic loss of life, disproportionately impacting the poor and those with underlying health conditions, and devastating lives and livelihoods. In our region, all 54 countries and territories have been affected.
She believes that the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic has had some level of effect on the mental well-being of every person. Etienne stressed that this year, more than ever, it is crucial to work together to prevent suicide. Jacques Wooding, Hot 7 News.
A cinema viewing of the documentary The Ballad of Botham Jean was aired in St. Lucia on Saturday and Sunday. Botham Jean's mother, Alison Jean, says she is heartened by the response to the biopic and says she believes the airing of Botham's story in this light will help inspire and keep the Black Lives Matter movement alive. Rochelle Gonzalez has more.
Alison Jean has been given one more reason to smile in the name of her son, Botham, following the successful screening of The Ballad of Botham Jean, a 2-hour documentary about the life and death of the 26-year-old who was murdered in his own home by a former Dallas police officer in 2018. The documentary, which was produced for Investigation Discovery, was screened at the Caribbean cinemas on Saturday and Sunday with the admission of $20. On Monday, she told Hot 7 TV that she was heartened by the show of support on the 2 days of screening.
I really appreciate the support that I'm getting from these people, and when I read the review by Dr. Didicus Jules, I felt very good that exactly, I believe what the producers wanted out of that film is exactly what Dr. Jules got from it. So in that regard, I believe that the producers can say that it was indeed a success. but more so the people who came. I really appreciate the support which they gave. A lot of people who came out of the cinema said that they've now been able to get closure because the film also includes certain parts that were not aired in public, like the body cam footage and other things. I think this film, one of the things that it will do is to bring Botham's name back, because there have been so many names to call that we even forget. I'm seeing in the United States he's almost forgotten, but this film will bring his name back into the fore and will also bolster the Black Lives Matter movement. I continue to be heartened at where the movement is going, because when you watch channels like Bravo TV, I watched the NFL games yesterday, and it started off with the whole Black Lives Matter, the importance of recognizing Black lives, the issues of police brutality. So that film brings everything back, and I believe it nicely gels the whole purpose for the Black Lives Matter movement, because Botham's story shows that in the sanctuary of his home, he was violated. And even in the film, it shows that, and persons are saying that if he was of a different race, if she had walked into the wrong apartment and seen a white man, she would not have killed him.
Jean said a corporate sponsor paid for 500 school students to view the film, so there will be a special viewing for them during school hours later on in the week. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Rochelle Gonzalez.
Students from around the island are in for a treat this coming Friday, as the Ministry of Education will host a viewing of The Ballad of Botham, the documentary biopic by the Discovery Channel about the life of the St. Lucian native.
Having already viewed the Ballad of Botham documentary herself, Chief Education Officer Dr. Fiona Philip-Meyer says she was elated by the outreach by the Botham Jean Foundation to have the nation's students view the film as well. Philip-Meyer believes that it is necessary for students to view the film in order for them to fully grasp what unfolded following Jean's fatal shooting by former police officer Amber Geiger and its impact on the global community.
As a Department of Education, we are very, very pleased to support this program and to ensure that our students do not forget who Botham Jean was, the impact that his life has had, and as the international community celebrates him, so much that the U.S. has named an avenue after him, that we as St. Lucians recognize his legacy in St. Lucia as a whole, but more so, we give honor to him as an individual, and we support his family likewise.
The Chief Education Officer shed some light on how the activity will be coordinated within the guidelines of COVID-19 protocols.
Well, we have had a lot of communication with the schools, and individual buses have been provided to the schools. Parental consent is necessary for that activity to happen, but the corporate citizen is handling all of the logistics in terms of picking the children up, bringing them safely back. The viewing happens at 10:30 in the morning and at Caribbean Cinemas at Shock. So we have all of the screens, 4 of the major screens there. So social distancing will be practiced, the use of the mask will be enforced, and we will have our teachers, our administrators supporting our children and supervising them during this period of time.
The activity will be held on Friday, September 18th, 2020. Parents will be contacted by the school regarding approval for student attendance. Jacques Wooding, Hot 7 News.
Director of the St. Lucia National Trust, Vishnu Tulsi, says it is disappointing that the St. Lucia National Trust was not allowed to actively contribute to discussion on the Cabot development during its early stages. Tulsi believes that had the trust been integrated, their concerns could have been addressed prior. More in this report.
It is the belief of St. Lucia National Trust Director Vishnu Tulsi that had the trust been represented during government discussions on the Cabot development, the current situation would be very different. He says if the trust had been allowed to air their concerns to developers immediately as they were identified, it is likely that common ground would be found, satisfying the needs of all parties. Tulsi believes that deliberate efforts were made to frustrate the trust's attempts to seek counsel with the developer.
There was a deliberate attempt to frustrate the trust's involvement, which is extremely disappointing because a lot of what's going on now could have been avoided if we were part of the discussions and we could have addressed our issues as they emerge so that we could find mutually agreeable solutions.
Tulsi claims that the trust was also denied access to documents on the development following its sole interaction with the developer in 2019. He says that much of the information currently available to the trust was as a result of legal action.
That's a disappointing matter for us. We met with the developers in October of 2019. Following that, there has been no communication between government and the trust. We did manage to have a meeting with Invest St. Lucia, but our efforts to get involved and to get information were frustrated to the point that we had to engage a lawyer to get access to documents that the trust legally has a right to access.
The St. Lucia National Trust Director is adamant that the National Trust is a necessary stakeholder to development of this kind. He says the trust will not let up its efforts to ensure that all due respect is paid to St. Lucia and its people during any form of development. Jacques Wooding, Hot 7 News.
Stay with us. There's more news coming up after the break.